but they were all strapped with suicide vests. So the big explosion was one of these guys went and played bouncy house on our diesel fuel. And that's when I told him, I was like, look, I've got like 103, 104 temp. I've got walking pneumonia. And they were like, well, why didn't you say anything when you showed up? You know, my thing is I want to be on the team, so show me what you got. You know, boot camp was almost kind of like a vacation for me, coming from the farm side of things. And, you know, I have these drill instructors yelling at me, and I'm like, man, that's all you got? My mom used to yell at me worse than that. So a couple other suicide bombers went and blew up some blew up the Marine Corps Harriers and stuff like that. So, you know, from what I heard, it was like one of the biggest aviation losses that the Marine Corps has had since the Vietnam War.
Welcome to 1023 Podcast, from on scene to on air with those who were there. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. You can also listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and feel free to email us at 1023podcast@gmail.com with your ideas for future episodes. Lastly, the views and opinions of the individuals featured on 1023 Podcast do not necessarily reflect those of their employers or their profession. Viewer discretion is advised. This is 1023 Podcast, episode 10-8, with myself, Hunter Fithen, the lovely and talented Ashley Fithen.
Hello.
And then we actually have not one, but two guests for this episode. We have our special guest, Mr. Robbie Allmon of P2 Concepts. And Robbie's actually like our primary guest for this episode. And our secondary guest is a gentleman named Aaron Porras of a local law enforcement agency here in Texas. And myself and Porras actually just got done in kind of a refresher training course for SWAT stuff with Robbie as our instructor. So we're all together today, and we're kind of we actually plan to have Porras on for a future episode in this show, but this is kind of his first little cameo appearance. So welcome, Robbie. Welcome, Porras.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to have y'all here. But the actual topic of this episode is we're going to be talking primarily to Robbie here about himself and kind of his background in military and contracting and law enforcement, and now in the training space. And so, Robbie, we're just going to ask you to introduce yourself and kind of tell us where you're born, where you come from.
You have to tell us what 10-8 means first.
I'm sorry, I forgot about that. So I got excited. Premature
Robbie is a
sometimes.
very exciting guy, so I don't blame you.
Okay, well, to explain the 10 code for this episode, 10-8 most commonly means that an officer is going back into service or is in service, meaning that they are available to take a call for service. So an example of this would be, if an officer shows up on a domestic disturbance and handles that domestic disturbance, whenever they are finished and they're ready to accept more calls, they're going to get on the radio and say that they are 10-8. So we are in service today for whatever kind of awesome knowledge bombs Robbie's going to drop on us.
Sweet.
So,
There
you have it.
So, all right, like you guys heard, my name's Robbie Allmon. I'm the owner, lead instructor for P2 Concepts. I'm co-owner. Obviously, got to throw my wife in there. She's co-owner as well, who's retired law enforcement as well. So her and I, we run P2 Concepts, which is a training company, primarily training, dedicated training company for law enforcement. We do some military and contracting training on the side. So we basically travel. We travel all over the United States, training law enforcement agencies, anywhere from, basically our specialty is more on the SWAT side of things, tactical side of things. But we do, train the trainer, firearms instructor, patrol rifle instructor, different train the trainer stuff. And then, we get called in to do private training, a lot of stuff like that. So we can customize pretty much anything that we do, for any department, whether it's a SWAT team or a patrol unit or just a whole department. So, we probably travel. I travel probably about 250 days out of the year. So always on the road, always seeing new
Yeah.
towns, new faces, same conversations, but new faces.
Yep.
Same jokes. I hear them all. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So I think as far as like all y'all's course offerings go, I know that I've had the opportunity to, I've taken your basic SWAT, hostage rescue school, and this week we just got done doing kind of a SWAT in-service training,
kind
which
of like private training.
Yeah,
That's what we call it. Is private
training.
Private
Okay.
training. So.
Yeah, and it's been excellent. We went over everything from kind of CQB refresher to vehicle takedown stuff to some stuff with the K9.
Yep. Live fire,
like all that good stuff. So it's been excellent. But tell us a little bit about like, so where were you born? Like, where'd you grow up? Like, where do you come from? Like, what's your background?
What is Robbie's story?
So my story is I'm a Heinz 57. I'm a mutt. So I was adopted. So I don't know a whole lot about childhood stuff. Biologically. So
Sure,
I do know that I was born in Dallas. Grew up in Texas, DFW area. Went to Sanger schools. Graduated from Sanger. When I graduated, I pretty much left everything behind, went to the Marine Corps, did my Marine Corps thing, got out of the Marine Corps, got into law enforcement, did a little stint in the law enforcement area full time, and then decided I needed a vacation from life and went back overseas as a contractor, and did contracting for a couple years, and then came home and pretty much told I was done with contracting from my current wife, and so we got into the training industry. So if I, if I can't kick doors anymore, I might as well train everybody else that's
Sure.
kicking doors. Go ahead and start training them to kick doors. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I'm in the training industry and teaching the younger generation to go out there and kick the doors, since I'm not doing it no more. So
For sure. Yeah. So, okay. I think I know you well enough at this point to speak a little bit to your character. I think you're being a little modest. I think you're glazing over a lot of
I'd agree.
probably a lot of cool stuff there. Because shoot, Boris, I know you've trained with Robbie quite a bit too. What classes have you taken with P2?
I took his Red Dot instructor course and also another CQB course along with another guy. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I'd agree. It's being fake humble, as I would say.
Well, on that note, so like after training with you and everything, like whenever you say things like, oh, like, I went to the Marine Corps and did the Marine Corps thing, like, what did you actually do like in the Marine Corps?
So
like, tell us a little bit about that.
So I was originally with what they call first LAR, Light Armor Reconnaissance.
Okay.
I started as a crewman working with the vehicles, started as a driver, moved my way up to gunner.
Yeah.
And then I got into the platoon, the scout platoon, which were the guys that rode in the back. And that's where I kind of got into more of the close quarters type environment, doing room entries and building clearing and stuff like that. And then, getting out of the Marine Corps after that, getting into law enforcement. Obviously, I started working as a jailer, reserved, during the daytime I reserved and then worked the jail at night. Put myself through the academy, got certified. Got on the SWAT team, which is a special operations response team inside the jail, working with, riots and disgruntled, inmates inside the jail. And then worked my way out to patrol, got on patrol, did my stint in patrol, doing the patrol thing. And then, obviously got invited to come out and try out for SWAT, and which was my ultimate goal when I got into law enforcement. Coming out of the Marine Corps, you get out of the Marine Corps, you're kind of like, well, what do I do now? And, you only have a, certain specific set of skills when you come out of the environment I was in with the Marine Corps. So I was basically the infantry, so you get out with those type of skill sets, there's not really much you can do when you get back into the civilian world. So it's kind of like, well, what do I do now? So when I finally made the decision of, hey, let's start going towards that law enforcement side, I was like, my goal is to get onto special operations and get on the SWAT side of things. So that was my ultimate goal when I got into law enforcement was to get on SWAT.
Yeah.
So when I was invited to come out and, go through the selection and try out for the team, I didn't, at the time, according to the policies of the department I was working with, I didn't have enough time with that agency to make the team, but I was invited to come out and go, hey, look, just come out and try it out and see what it's all about.
Okay.
Obviously we can't bring you on the team until, you have that time and service.
Time requirement. Yeah.
Which was basically, I had like maybe a couple more months within that time. So I came out and just went through the selection, and I with me, if I'm going to do something, I do it 100%. So
sure.
So I went out and gave my 100% and did really well on selection. And I think at that time there was like 3 spots that they were trying to fill on the team. So when I went to my oral board for the team, they were like, look, here's the thing. We've got 3 spots open. We're going to fill 2 of them from this selection. And then in the next, 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to hold another selection. And all you need to do is just kind of come out and go through the motions and try out for the team again. And then, we're going to reserve that spot for you without them telling me they're going to reserve that spot for me.
Yeah.
So, 3 or 4 weeks later, I come back out and I go back through the same selection.
Okay.
But this time, of course, with me being in the mindset, coming from the Marine Corps, everything's a test, right? Mm-hmm. So when they were like, look, all you got to do is just come back out and just kind of go through the motions and the spot's yours, basically. I was like, yeah, that's
sounds like a trap.
That sounds like a trap. So I'm going to try to do my best again. But when I took the selection process again, I had like walking pneumonia. So I had like 103, 104 temp when I showed up, and I didn't do as well as I did the first time.
Oh yeah.
Now I still beat some of the other candidates that showed up.
Even with the temperature that high. Yeah,
even with this the issues that I had going on, but
yeah. Damn, that's like, I'm either really badass or like you suck.
Right. So when I went back into my oral board, that was one of the first questions that popped up. They were like, hey man, you obviously didn't do as well as you did the first time. So what's up? And that's when I told them, I was like, look, I've got like 103, 104 temp. I've got walking pneumonia. And they were like, well, why didn't you say anything when you showed up?
Yeah.
I was like, well, because it wasn't, I don't think that was a issue that I should have been bringing up. So my thing is I want to be on the team. So show me what you got, so
sure.
We're not looking for excuses, to be on the team. So I just went through it again. And that's when I made the team at that point. So I made the team.
Awesome.
Suffering from walking pneumonia and whatever I had. So I got on the team and started training with the team. And I would say probably 3 to 6 months later, I got sent to basic SWAT and got certified. And, my first position on the team was obviously entry team. I was a point man, which the SOPs kind of with our team was, when you're a new guy on the team, you go to perimeter, right? So that's kind of the first thing. But since I had some of the experience that I had from the Marine Corps, they just kind of brought that over.
I see.
So I went to SWAT school. I graduated SWAT school as top operator in my SWAT school, which was pretty cool because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were kind of doing that thing. With me, I guess kind of backtracking, you asked me, how I grew up. I got adopted when I was 13. But the people that adopted me, my parents that I consider my parents, my mom and dad, they kind of took me in and took care of me since I was like 18 months old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So then when I was 13, and as of a legal age to kind of make my own decisions, according to the courts, that's when I just had them. I was like, hey, I've been with you pretty much since I was 18 months old. Why don't you go ahead and adopt me? And so I went through that adoption phase. But so my parents were like in their mid 60s when they adopted me. So they were a little old school. So we grew up on a farm out in Sanger, and so I grew up in kind of old school farm age. So I grew up in that era of, hey, you do what you're told and don't ask any questions, right?
Hard work.
Yeah. So, we didn't ask why. You just did what you were told to do. And I think that kind of helped me when I, going through, high school and being in athletics and doing stuff like that. You just do what you're told to do and do it at 100%. Otherwise, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
So that kind of just pushed me on when I got into the Marine Corps, going into boot camp and, boot camp was almost kind of like a vacation for me coming from the farm side of things. And, I have these drill instructors yelling at me and I'm like, man, that's all you got? My mom used to yell out and yell at me worse than that. So boot camp really wasn't, that big of an ordeal for me. And so, the Marine Corps thing just it's kind of a natural thing for me. And, all the traditions and all the, the lifestyle of being a Marine just kind of fell into place. I was already living that life anyway. So it was just more natural to me.
Yeah.
So then, when I got out of the Marine Corps, that was probably the hardest thing, was getting out of the Marine Corps and transitioning back into that civilian mindset and lifestyle. So getting into law enforcement, that's another reason I chose law enforcement. I was like, well, I have a skill set behind a gun, so cops carry guns, so kind of fits, right?
Sure.
So that was kind of my whole decision making of getting on law enforcement, and then starting out in the jail. I don't know, if you guys worked in the jail before, but
I never did.
You go into a corrections type mentality.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than being in law enforcement, on the street side of things. So that was kind of a big transition issue that I had, getting into that, because, in the Marine Corps, we had a really tight brotherhood in the Marine Corps, and then getting into the law enforcement side and understanding that brotherhood is translated a little bit differently in law enforcement.
Yeah.
How so? How so?
That's a good question.
Just out of curiosity.
Well, let's just say they don't call it the thin blue line for nothing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I had guys that would fight and die for you. And then, trying to transition into law enforcement, the standards were a little bit different in law enforcement than what they were in the Marine Corps. So, you start learning who to associate yourself a little bit with versus others not to.
Yeah.
You got people that start out working corrections that have a mindset and a goal to get out onto the streets and continue on with their career. And then you have guys that work in corrections that, hey, that's what they want to do with their life and work in corrections, which obviously nothing wrong with that. So there's kind of two different mentalities when you got new guys coming into law enforcement and starting their career out in the corrections field. You kind of pick and choose who you want to associate yourself with. You want to associate yourself with the career corrections officers, or do you want to associate yourself with, hey, I'm just using this as a stepping stone to get to the next level and get out on patrol and start my career out there, out on the streets.
Was that one of the hardest parts of the transition, was knowing that brotherhood was kind of shifted or changed or not?
It was
as
that
strong?
And the standards side of things.
Were they lower?
The standards were a little bit lower.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You come in, coming being from a Marine, everything is spit shined and polished, and you come in and you're spit shined and polished, but you're seeing some of these other officers that were kind of lax in some of their standards.
Yeah.
Was it just frustrating to see?
It was a little frustrating. So
one thing we've talked about on this show before, if I'm not mistaken, is like the variance of like quality of peace officers across the country. Because like, I don't know, I would wager to say, and well, I've never been in the Marines, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would wager to say that to become a Marine is not necessarily an easy task. So like, you've probably achieved a pretty high standard just to earn that title.
Right.
Whereas nowadays in American law enforcement across the country, depending on where you are, standards have been lowered to such a degree where sometimes you have these guys going into law enforcement academies who are absolutely, Marine Corps quality, like, spit shine, awesome, polished, like they're great dudes, great gals. But you also have these people that are like really probably shouldn't be there, or like they're like barely meeting the standard.
Yeah.
Well, and my buddy Porras here, he knows, he teaches a lot in the academy locally here. But you're going to have those folks that come in that really shouldn't be here. But maybe if they're just barely making it, then okay, like technically on paper they passed. But I think that the quality of like your average Marine versus your average peace officer, I think the Marines are probably held to a higher standard. That would be safe to say.
Well, that's kind of That's kind of sad.
It is very sad.
Because
yeah.
the
standard should be high for both.
I mean, it's like as a civilian, I want the people protecting me to be like just as high as standards as the military. Like this is what
one would think.
I would prefer if I were being protected by someone. Certainly don't want it to be by someone who shouldn't have passed the academy, but for some reason did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big problem.
But let's give you a gun and have fun, you know?
Yeah.
But the sad thing is you have that across the board. Even in the Marine Corps, it happens there too. So it happens in all branches, military, and it happens in law enforcement, and it probably happens in the civilian world as well.
Oh yeah.
You've got people working, corporate America or civilian jobs, and that you're like, how does this
how did that even happen?
How did that even happen?
Yeah. How does this guy put his shoes on?
So
No, it kind of goes across the board, I think, but if we want to. Okay, so this actually kind of segues into something I want to circle back to. You were talking about like whenever you got into law enforcement and then got the opportunity, you got invited to come out and try out for SWAT selection and everything. When we're talking about things like standards and stuff like that, that automatically for me ties into a selection process. Mm-hmm. Can you speak at all to like what your selection process was like? Was there like a physical test, a written test, both? Can you talk about that?
So my selection for SWAT was, you had to submit a letter of interest that you wanted to be part of the selection process.
Sure.
And then obviously your team leaders would go in and probably start diving off into your your training file and seeing if you've been wrote up or, do you have initiative to put in for training, and what training have you done while you've been here in law enforcement? And then they'll probably go and talk to your supervisors and some of your peers that you work with. Cause they may not know you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cause I worked for a pretty good, I wouldn't say I worked for a large agency, but I worked for a pretty large minimum or medium size agency.
Sure. Yeah.
So, they may not always know who you are because, we had guys coming from different units and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of want to get a feel for who you are. And then you get to date of selection. So obviously there's a shooting qualification, a PT standard. And then there's some other things that they'll put you through, like a stress shoot, and just to see how well you think under high stress.
Sure.
And see if you're able to work a problem and get through that problem under high stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the oral board, and you got to, come in, and now you walk in and you've got the commander and the team leader and the whole team sitting there in front of you. And you've got the commander and the team leaders asking you questions, different questions about who you are and, how to handle certain situations. And basically, they're looking for, certain attributes that you have as a person, which is, obviously when you go to an oral board,
mm-hmm.
they're hopefully they're not asking you, what would you do during a hostage rescue? Obviously I'm not SWAT yet, so I haven't been trained to do that. So hopefully they're kind of asking you certain questions to get to know you as a person a little bit better.
Yeah.
See if your personality, because when you start working in a team environment, personalities really need to fit with other personalities on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have clashing personalities, it's kind of a cancer for a team.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of trying to get the feel of who you are as a person and see if you're the right fit for the team. So they're asking different questions like that. They kind of lead around there. And then, once you're done with the oral board, they'll ask you to step out, and you'll have to go out and sit out there and wait and for everybody else to go to the oral board.
Yeah.
And then they'll come out, they'll send somebody out there and call a group of names. And then they'll say, hey, if your name wasn't called, thanks for coming out. We'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else just kind of hang out, and we'll go through the process from here.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it was with me. So
cool. Yeah, I did hear from so some of the other like local area SWAT teams where we're at. I've had an opportunity to talk to those guys on various occasions, training or whatever. And one thing I heard from one of those guys one time that has always stuck with me is he was talking about the type of person that they look for, that they want on their team when they're doing selection is, he said, we don't want the best person for the job. We want the right person for the job.
Right.
He's like, so if we come out and we have this guy and he's the best shooter, he's in the best shape, he did the best on the written exam, he did the best whatever, and then we get to the oral board and we actually talk to this guy and everything. We look at his background and everything, and hey, we found this interesting thing in his background where kind of looks like he was being dishonest about something before. Well, he may be the best guy for the job on paper because he's the best at all these things, but that's not who we want. He's not right for it, so they'll boot him. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Absolutely.
So no, that's cool though to kind of see how it works as far as the different elements of the selection go.
Right.
So cool. So you get selected on this SWAT team, and you're a very interesting guest for us because I know you have a very like vast background of like lots of cool guy stuff that you're too humble to talk about. So I don't want to like bypass any of that. So if at any point, like, I don't know, you remember, oh, hey, one time this cool thing did happen that I can or am willing to talk about, then please by all means do so. But kind of jumping ahead to like when you've been selected for this SWAT team and now you're on, do you remember your first like SWAT operation that you were part of? Like, did you get stuck on, I know you said you kind of, due to your background and everything, you became an entry guy pretty quickly. But like your first op, like did they throw you on perimeter or? Like...
No, I think I was on on what we call a window team.
Okay.
So that's where we come up and we'll probably break out the window and port and hold a specific room of the target location that we're looking at, which was a residential subject, residential area.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a narcotics warrant or something like that. So I think I was on a window team. So the one thing that kind of stands out on that is, there was a baseball game, like a high school baseball game happening just a few blocks down from where we were hitting this, this house. And as soon as we got the execution order to go ahead and start breaking windows and start, breaching doors and going in, as soon as we broke that window, they started playing the national anthem at the baseball game. So it was like right as soon as that window broke, it started playing the national anthem. So when we got done with the op and we were going back and, we were going to do our debrief, that was one thing that everybody was like talking about. It was like perfect timing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It was so perfect timing.
Awesome.
So that was like the one thing that stuck out of one of my first ops. And I don't remember if that was like my very first op, but that was one of my first ops. Yeah.
Gosh, that's funny. Yeah. What are the odds?
It's a true like hell yeah brother moment.
It was more of a mental thing for me. It was like, okay, this is exactly where I need to be and doing exactly what I need to be doing at this moment. So so that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I once I made the team and went through, I started training with the team. And then I went through SWAT school and started coming back. And once you go through SWAT school and you earn that certificate and then you get your little SWAT emblem and stuff like that. Now you actually feel like you're part of that team, right?
Yeah.
Once they bring you in and pin you and stuff like that, whatever your pinning ceremonies are. Sometimes it's like, hey, here you go. Here's your SWAT eagle.
Yeah.
With us, a lot of our guys were prior military on our team. So, we had a little bit of ceremony there and, a lot of them, some of them were Marines, some were Army and different things. So, with the Marine Corps, you get pinned a lot of times when you get promoted. And so that's where they they put your little emblem on your chest and then they kind of pound it in and let you know, hey, you earned it.
Mm-hmm.
So we got pinned. And so that's when you start really feeling part of the team.
That's cool.
So you have a little bit more responsibility and go, hey, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
So
you want to know what my welcoming to the team was?
Oh gosh.
I'm interested to hear this.
Yeah. Well, you'll find this very, very entertaining because you were there. Actually, I'm going to talk about two things, but one of them was I had to do this insane, like crazy PT workout thing where I'm running around in a gas mask, carrying heavy dumbbells, doing a whole thing in BDUs and boots and everything, dying. I think I threw up. So that happened. And then a little bit later on, like my true welcome, we're like, okay, like now I've been like certified to do like pretty much everything at a basic level that we do, was getting tear gassed.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, great, thanks.
So everyone who joins, who's officially part of SWAT, all the new guys have to be tear gassed.
Well, yeah, because you have to be certified to like
Operate,
do
Operate tear gas
operations.
in that
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, because if you're gonna
Oh.
like shoot tear gas into a location and then go in there and do the job, like you have to, you better know what that's like.
you have to know
before-
what it's like.
Yeah. So we were actually, it's funny, before we came to record, we were having a few drinks at a local bar here, and we were actually talking about this. So I'm actually going to regurgitate this story
Go
just
for
for
it.
the audience. But I had to run into this building that was full of tear gas.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Porus was there.
Yep.
And which, by the way,
Just waiting for you.
yeah, just waiting for
Open
me.
arms.
Yeah. Yes.
Come to me, Fagan.
Yes. Yeah.
Welcome to the
Oh,
team.
it was so welcoming, let me tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how bad do you want to be on
Yeah.
the team right now?
Yeah, basically. But so Fisher, who we also have on this podcast from time to time, and Porus are our local team's team leaders, kind of co-team leaders, depending on who's available. But anyway, I run into this building that is like jam-packed full of tear gas. You can't see anything. I'm there to get exposed. So I don't have a mask or anything like that. And I'm supposed to run up to Porus and tell him my name, my badge number, and I don't know, some other stuff. Like, I don't know if y'all told me phone number
Say the Pledge
or...
of Allegiance.
Yeah,
or
the pledge.
something.
I don't know. I'm supposed to rattle off a whole bunch of information under stress and everything. Well, I think I got like my first name out, and then I was like, I could not breathe, could not say anything. And yes, as you can imagine, tear gas does cause you to cry. So like, eyes full of tears, I look like I'm like bawling. And I think
amongst other things.
amongst other things, yeah. Well, and I think at some point, I didn't even finish what I was supposed to say, but you were just like, okay. And you like escorted me out. And I got out into this beautiful fresh air, and it was great, and I wasn't dying anymore. My armpits were on fire
Yep.
because tear gas will get you in your sweaty spots.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was. And then after that, I was like, okay, like I'm here, like I've been initiated.
You don't want to quit
So-
after that?
Well, I didn't want to
changed
quit.
my mind.
I didn't want to quit ever, but no, that was like my okay, cool, like got all this stuff out of the way, and now I'm like, okay, like I'm ready to start learning more, but actually start being part of it. So yeah, but the whole selection thing, that's cool.
But that's the cool thing about getting gassed. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
is being prior service, we get gassed in basic training.
Okay.
In boot camp. So when I got on SWAT and going through that gas training and evolution again, it's like it's a smell that you never forget, especially when it's like CS gas, right?
Yeah.
We use different kinds of gas. We have OC spray, and then we have CS gas that we typically use on SWAT.
Mhm.
And they kind of affect different things.
Yeah. I think OC is worse.
I'll take CS over OC any day.
Yeah.
So,
What's the
But-
difference between the two? Just one's more potent?
Yeah. So the long story short of it, so OC, I can't say the scientific name for it because I don't remember what it is, and I would mispronounce it anyway. But it's basically pepper spray.
Yeah.
So it gets in your eyes, and the thing about it that I don't like is it lasts for so long. Like the duration of like the discomfort can go on for hours.
Mhm.
yeah.
And then you also have like the reactivation issues. So like you got hit with pepper spray, and after an hour or two, it kind of fades, and you're like, okay, now I'm good. Well, then when you go to take a shower, you like reignite yourself, and
Oh.
that's terrible.
That's the CO stuff?
OC.
OC.
OC. It's something it's some kind of pepper.
What's
name.
the other stuff?
Capsaicin.
Capsaicin.
Capsaicin,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. Thanks.
I don't
But
know
the
where I
other
pulled
stuff.
that out of, but
I don't know. Yeah, so that's OC, and then the other stuff is CS, which I also can't tell you like the actual like scientific name of CS gas, but that's the tear gas. And tear gas, like when you're exposed to it, it's very irritating to your eyes and your nose and your
So
lungs.
it actually affects your nasal cavity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's more psychological than anything. So
Yeah.
it affects your nasal cavity, but it makes you feel like you can't breathe,
Yeah.
but you actually can. So it's
Yeah.
more psychological than
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
You can actually breathe. It like I said, it's just going into your nasal
It's very
cavity,
irritating.
and it's very irritating. But the time to recover from that, once you get out of that environment and you get into a
Yeah.
clean, uncontaminated environment, it kind of goes away within about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
OC spray, depending on the person, will last a little bit longer. Like for me personally, when I got OC sprayed, I was out for like 2 hours. Like I couldn't
That was
function
me.
for 2 hours. But like CS, once you're in, it makes you feel like you want to die. But once you get out into like fresh air and you got some water washing it off, yeah, you're good to go in about 10, 15 minutes. So
you'd rather do CS than
I would rather
OC?
be exposed to CS
Yeah.
than OC. But
Give me that tear gas before
but
that pepper
CS
spray.
has a very
Really?
distinctive smell to it. So
Yeah.
anytime that, when I go out and do the training and, we get requested to do, gas certification, you smell it every time and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. So
Yeah.
it's just a memory that never goes away.
Yeah.
Hunter,
Do you-
didn't you negotiate with someone over the phone and you told him, hey, they're fixing to throw in tear gas.
No,
you might
I-
want to save your dogs or something
I didn't
like that?
tell him that. So the
Oh,
tear gas
okay.
was already deployed.
Oh, had it been
and
deployed?
he was
okay.
mad about it. I was on the phone with him because that was like before I was on like the actual TAC team. Like that was kind of like my foot in the door to like kind of start learning about it.
Was negotiator.
negotiator stuff. And so, yeah. And so I talked to this guy. He was barricaded, and then Porus and the boys were out dealing with him. He had actually, he was a meth user, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And he had taken his own mother hostage at gunpoint, which prompted a TAC team call out. And then while you guys were there, or like I think right before y'all got there, he actually released mom, correct?
Something like that. Yeah.
He
I think
heard
you're right.
SWAT was showing up and was like, okay, here's mom. Well, it's too late. You already did it. So like you're coming with us. But he barricades, and then I ended up getting on the phone with him. And at that point, he had already been gassed, and he was very
Oh,
upset
I
about
see.
it. He was very mad at you guys.
He was.
So there's that. I'm going to let Porus tell the rest of
Well,
that story, though,
and,
because I wasn't actually there.
Our team leader actually wasn't there, so I was taking the role of team lead at the time, and so we didn't really have that guy to pull our reins back on everything we were doing, and
Oops.
so
Yeah. Because y'all used a lot of gas.
a ridiculous amount of gas, an offensive amount of gas. So,
Well, he was very
I don't know how
upset.
much we used, but we used
it
all of
was
it.
a lot of it,
Yeah.
and so we're walking in this cloud of gas. I mean, it was a fog of gas, right? And we eventually cleared the whole residence, and we have the guy pinned down to basically a bathroom.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so Fithin is communicating with the guy on the
Yeah.
phone at this time.
Yeah. I was at Chili's.
At Chili's.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I guess the conversation was had where you basically telling my buddy is out there, or you
Yeah. Well, he was very upset when I started talking to him because I called him like literally 50 times. I called him 49 times and he didn't answer. And then on the 50th call, he picked up and he was upset.
Yeah.
He told me that if we were going to come in there, his words were, it's going to be a bullet storm. I'm like, well, that's not going to end in your favor, but okay. So there's that. But no, I ended up getting him calmed down enough. And yes, his dogs were a factor because,
His dogs were coughing because of the gas.
well,
Yeah.
kind of the gas. I can't tell if it even affects dogs that much.
Okay.
From what I know, you can send a dog into
into the tear gas?
Yeah,
Really?
and it should not affect them.
Why? Why did
They have a different nasal
And
structure,
how
and
strange.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't 100%.
Tear gas is made to irritate humans.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
there's that, but what I used on him was I could hear a dog hacking in the background, and so I was like, "You have dogs with you?" And he was like, "Yeah, y'all gas my dogs, like, oh, y'all gas my fucking dogs. I'm gonna kick your ass, whatever." And so I played that up on him, and I was like, "Man, you got to get those dogs out of that gas. Like they're hurting, man. They're hurting. Like they want you to save them. You got to save those dogs." And eventually he was like, "Okay, like I'm gonna put the pistol up and I'm gonna come out." And that's whenever like I didn't know who all from our team was actually there on scene, but we have 2 guys on the team named Aaron. So like surely one of the Aarons is there.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hey, listen, my buddy Aaron is out there. Like he's not gonna hurt you. Like he just wants to help you. Like so." I want you to call out to Aaron. I want you to stick your hands out of the bathroom empty and do whatever Aaron tells you to do. So I was like, okay. And then what did that cost for you guys?
Well, so he calls out Aaron, and of course the other Aaron is on the door, stacked on the door, and I'm pushed a little back. We had an issue with some gas masks. Someone may have thrown up in their gas mask. It was a cluster. So I'm trying to get those guys out because I mean we have a review. We need to cover what we got. Because we cleared every room except the room he was in. So he calls out Aaron, and we had me and the other Aaron had a little Spider-Man moment where we're pointing at each other, Spider-Man meme. You, me,
Which
you,
Aaron is he
me.
talking to?
And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the team leader right now, so I'll take control of this. And we start communicating with him through the door. Eventually, he does agree to come out.
Yeah.
He pops the door open. We had this little oh shit moment where his dog backed into the room, and so the guy, of course, reaches back for his dog really quickly.
Oh no!
And guns are
Yeah.
coming up. Like, what is he reaching for? Of course, he was reaching to grab his dog.
Yeah.
He grabs the dog. We pull him out. Of course, we find the loaded 1911 in there that he was
Mhm.
gonna have the.
Which he lied to me about that because he had told me he was. I told him just to put it in the bathtub and not touch it, and he was like, "Well, I could do better than that. Like, I'll take it apart and put it in the bathtub." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you don't. Okay, whatever. Yeah, do that. It sounds good. If you'll do that, that's great." And then y'all found it like fully assembled in the sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, asshole.
Yeah. So.
But anyway,
Yeah.
it was all good. Y'all got him in custody, and there was that. But that was a
Tear gas.
tear gas story.
I think there's still gas flowing out of that house right now. As we speak.
To this day, it just
Yeah,
has this
to this
mystic
day.
aura. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's tear gas for you. But I agree with you though that like the smell of the tear gas, like I haven't been exposed to it or been around it near as much as I'm sure you have. But when I am, my nose crinkles up and my mouth gets like real watery because my brain is like, I know what that is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't want none of it. So
Definitely.
no, there's that. Anyway, so we kind of got done. We kind of got sidetracked talking about tear gas stories and the difference between tear gas and NOC spray. But I want to climb back into now. So your first actual SWAT op on a window team.
Yep.
Cool. What do you like moving forward from that part in your law enforcement career though, in your SWAT career? What ends up being kind of like your niche? Because I know like especially on like bigger SWAT teams, people are going to find like their thing where like, hey, they're a dedicated entry guy almost 100% of the time, or they're mostly a perimeter guy, or they're a breacher, or they're a sniper, or they're whatever. What ends up becoming kind of your primary role on the team?
So, obviously being part of the entry team, and the things that I was doing in the Marine Corps was all, close quarters, room entries, door kicking, stuff like that. So that just became my specialty. So I really started diving hard into just the different techniques and styles of room entries and building clearing. Because what I was taught originally in basic Marine Corps training, and then, kind of taking that knowledge and taking other classes and learning and going through other trainings in room entries, learning that I don't know how I didn't get killed doing some of the things that I was doing from basic training.
Yeah.
And there's just so much more out there, and, and then diving off into, tactics versus strategy, and really getting into the strategy side of, the whole tactical side of things. And that's where kind of where I'm at now, is really looking at the strategy side of it versus just tactics alone. Because if you run on a tactic alone, not one tactic's going to work for every situation.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a little bit of strategy behind that, so kind of what I teach when I'm teaching this stuff is, tactics is just the how of how to do things, right? Or do that one tactic, right? But the strategy is the who, what, where, when, where, why, all the other stuff that goes into play. So you start learning and going, okay, well, this tactic may work for XYZ, but it won't work for ABC, right?
Yeah.
But so what will work for ABC? Well, this tactics will work for ABC. So you start learning, you just kind of, start studying all of it, right? And then you just go in and start learning from other instructors that come from different experiences and different things like that. And you just kind of take what you've learned and just kind of mold it into your kind of your own thing. So that's kind of where we're at now today. And what we're teaching is just kind of, just kind of a hodgepodge of everything that I bring from my experiences, from, real world, operations and then also on the training side of things, and from who I've learned from, what I've liked from this instructor, what I didn't like from that instructor, and
Sure.
vice versa. So,
yeah, I think there's a lot of wisdom in that and the difference between tactics and strategy. Because I've seen guys before that they're going to argue like ad nauseum about high port versus low port.
Right.
Like how do you carry your rifle in the house or whatever. And I've seen time and time again that like it almost doesn't really. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because like I'm sure it matters to a degree, but it doesn't really matter that much. Like what's more important than that is like, hey, is your muzzle pointed in a safe direction? Can you get on target quickly when you need to? Like, okay, cool, it works.
Right.
Like, there's that.
Yeah, and you learn that there's a time and a place for
Sure.
for all the stuff that's out there, whether it's coming from this instructor or that instructor. It's not that they're training, not training the right stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They may be training, the right stuff, but it's explaining the when and the where to utilize that particular style, right? Or technique.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. And like, I think this past week, like while we were training this week, somehow the conversation got brought up about Soul position with your pistol versus temple index and all that. And it's one of those things where like, hey, there's kind of a time and a place for both, like situation dependent. But like when we talk more like less tactics and like more strategy, we're talking about other things like when we're looking at actual operational planning, like entry points and how are we going to cover these angles? And there's just more to consider than like, I don't know. I think a lot of guys waste a lot of time and a lot of energy on the high port versus low port argument when they could be talking about stuff a lot more productive.
Right.
And do you see a lot of that like in your training stuff now where like guys are focused on the wrong things, would you say?
I do. And it all kind of depends on their experience level. Right. So if I get experienced officers that come through training, obviously I have some hurdles I have to overcome from, prior trainings that they've had or experiences they've had, or, things that, we've been doing this way for many, many years. So, if they're open-minded to learn something else. So, kind of one of the things that we base our training off of is, I'm not here to teach you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think. So I'm not here to change the way your team is doing it currently. I'm just here to kind of give you some direction on how to make what you do better, because you can always do it better. You're not going to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can always get better. So some of the things, with you guys that I've worked with your team, this last week was more, we spent a lot of time not really making entries and doing certain things, but it was, hey, what if we had this? What would you guys do? Right.
Yeah.
So like yesterday, I handed you the floor plan to the training site that we were at and go, hey, if we were going to do a multiple team entry, how would we do that?
Yeah.
Right. And so instead of me going, this is how you would do this, I said, what would you guys do? So it made the whole team come together as a team and go, well, let's custom discuss this and figure out the best way to do it. And, some of the strategies that were given to me, I would follow that up with certain questions. Well, what about this? How would you handle that? And you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe that's not the way we should do it. Right.
Yeah.
So it just kind of gets your whole team to think as a team, not a group of individuals. Right.
And I'd say that's something you're really good at is getting the wheels turning in some of these guys. You know what I mean? Like, making them think as well. Like, I'm not just dependent on my team leader anymore. Like, you're pushing the guys to also make those decisions when we're not around.
Right.
And I really enjoy that because I'm like, well, they need to be able to do that.
Right. Absolutely. And that's kind of like, coming into law enforcement in the, late 90s, early 2000s when I came in, it was, you do it this way. We've been doing it this way for 30 years, and this is how we're going to continue to do it, right?
Yeah.
Because it worked for me. Well, a lot has changed in the past 30 years.
I'm glad it worked for you in the past, but
right. So my thought process on that is, I'm not here to make you a bunch of robots. I don't want you doing it my way, right? I don't need a bunch of me's running around out there. This world can only take one of me. So, my concept and the way I train is to train you to be self-thinkers, not a bunch of robots, right? I mean, and kind of the thing that popped in my head when I started to think about that, was the little toy wind-up robots, that you see, and they're like, and they only go one direction. But when they run into that wall, what do? They just back up and keep running into the same spot, right? When all they have to do was back up, take a step to the left, and go through the doorway, right? So that's kind of what popped in my head when I was like, look, we're training these guys to be robots, for example, let's talk about the basic of the basics, like 7-step violator, just a basic traffic stop, right?
Sure.
You have officers being trained, new officers to be trained to go up there and go, this is the first step. You've got to, introduce yourself, tell them what department you're from, tell them what why you pulled them over and why did they make that violation, and just kind of go through this step by step by process. But sometimes when you get up to that window, you may not be at that point of introducing yourself. You may have to go, into another step and start from there, and then back your way back to, now that I've got you calmed down, right? Now this is who I am, and this is why you've been pulled over.
I agree with you, because excuse me, stuff like the 7-step violator contact as it's taught is very robotic. But if you do pull someone over and, hey, we don't know exactly what's going on, but let's say they're highly intoxicated or something like that, and so which is not uncommon, by the way, but let's say the nanosecond you make contact with this person, they're immediately, hey, fuck the government, I don't like you, blah, blah, blah. And then you're trying to start with, hi, I'm Deputy Fithin.
Right.
That's just, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah. Or you show up and they're shooting at you and you're like, I just need to get your name and date of birth, sir.
This is why I'm pulling you over.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So that was kind of the thought process behind the development of some of my courses was, I don't want to develop a course on, hey, this is exactly how you have to do it because this is the best way since sliced bread, or, I know more than, as an instructor, I know more than this instructor. It's more of, hey, let's take what you've learned from that instructor and go, how do we take that versus what I'm fixing to show you and mold it together and make you a better operator?
Yeah.
And I use that word lightly as an operator. You can be a patrol officer and you still have to go out and operate in a patrol environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how are you going to operate in that environment? So, so I'm not using that word as you're some tier 1 special operator type stuff. No disrespect to those guys, but
of course,
so it's so you're just teaching guys to be self-thinkers. Take what you're supposed to do, and if that doesn't work, how are you going to modify to make it work to complete your objective? Yeah. So that's kind of what all my training courses are based off of, is completing the objective is your number one goal.
Yeah.
Right. So do what you have to do to complete that objective.
Sure.
Right. So if it means having to be a little unconventional.
Yeah.
From what, like your basic room entries, this guy goes here, this guy goes here, you do this, you do that. Well, that works great in a sterile, controlled environment.
Yep.
But what happens when it's not sterile and controlled and it's chaos?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what happens if I violate this step to go to this step? Can I go back to that step? Well, absolutely.
Right. Sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So.
Well, like they say, I think we've all heard the phrase, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. That's absolutely true for all walks of life. But I think that if you have yourself what's the word I'm looking for? If you're dedicated to this one way of doing things,
right.
It works great in a sterile environment where nothing goes wrong. But once something goes wrong, it's not going to work.
Well, it's only going to get you so far.
Yes.
Until it does not work for that situation you're in at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Correct. So I think your style of training, and I'm not just saying this because we just trained with you and everything, but sincerely, I think your style of doing it is the proper way and the best way to train tactics and strategy and everything. But yeah, I like the ability to adapt and think on our feet and everything, so that whatever situation we get called to, because 9 times out of 10 when you get called to a situation, you've never actually trained for that specific situation. You may have trained for something similar to it,
right.
But it's we've never had this version of it before, so we're going to have to adapt.
Right.
Is the thing. And so, cool.
Well, and a lot of things that I'll see is, I'll go, hey, why don't we do it this way? And then I'll see the team do it a different way. They took what I said and interpreted it into their own thought process, and they do it something totally different than what that's not what I was wanting to look at. But as an instructor, I'll take a step back and go, well, it worked.
Yeah.
So what was really wrong with it? If everything was covered and no principles were violated, and they completed the objective, it doesn't have to be exactly this way. You can do it however you need to get it done, and you got it done. So
and I think that's the distinction between what's the word I'm looking for here? Like just a basic, like in the law enforcement world, I'll use the word like a basic officer.
Right.
And then I know everyone likes to use the word operator because it's sexy and it sounds like Navy SEALs and Delta Force and all that. But not getting carried away with that word. But I do think that is the difference between someone who can go to a tactical environment and quote, operate, as opposed to someone who's going to show up and just kind of be like, I'm just going to wing it, from something I learned in the academy, 10 years ago.
Right.
So, no, that's good. So, circling back a little bit, you were primarily an entry guy, starting out in SWAT and like getting kind of your SWAT teeth cut on that and everything. One thing that I do want to ask you about is just what are maybe some of the highlight like calls that you went on as an entry guy? Like, can you tell the audience any cool stories about like, hey, we went on this op and this crazy stuff happened, or do any of them stand out to you as like this one in particular was real wild?
I mean, I guess they all kind of have their own little.
I know they're all going to have their own nuance. Yeah.
I either have boring ones or I have ones that's probably not appropriate to be talking about to the public. So,
I know some of like, and on this show, like we never want to divulge like stories that like really reveal like, like actual tactical procedures or anything, just for the safety of the guys who are out doing the work and everything. But I'm going to give you like a more specific prompt because I've heard a little bit about this story in one of your courses that I've taken with you.
No.
Yeah, it's a good one though. But I seem to remember something about an exploding toilet.
What?
Yeah, so there was the one where, again, I'm an entry guy, but sometimes, when you're on a team, you get put where you need to put. So I would say most of my memorable times, I was always on a window team. Maybe my team leader should have taken notes and was like, hey, maybe we shouldn't put him on a window team. Keep him on entry. But no, there was one where I was on a window team. I was tasked with, breaking a window with my team member and porting that window on a bathroom because, it was a dope raid.
Mm-hmm.
And we're there to, arrest a, dope dealer, whatever. And, typically once they hear you're there, they go into, hey, let's get rid of all the evidence, right? All the dope.
Right, yeah.
So we tried to cover the bathrooms because they typically like to flush it down the toilet. So I was tasked with porting the window once it was broke, and in comes one of the target guys that we were looking for with a handful of evidence, and he was going to put it in the toilet. And I had a brilliant idea at the time to take the flashbang and drop it in the toilet because I was thinking, hey, maybe this will distract him to not want to do that. Little did I know the flashbang would disintegrate the toilet and cause a geyser of toilet water to start flowing uncontrollably and flooding the house. So there was that. And so was my objective complete? Yes. Did I violate some standard operating procedures and policies? Absolutely. Did I get reprimanded for that? Absolutely. When I was asked why would you do that if we've never trained to do that? My answer was because it seemed like the right thing to do at the time, sir. I kind of get that. And I've always done things and I've always got the feedback of, hey, good initiative, but bad judgment. Right. And I've gotten that a lot throughout my life. But I'm very self-initiated. If I see a job that needs to be done and nobody's doing it, I'm going to do it. If I see if charge needs to be taken and nobody's taking charge, I'm that guy that's going to step up and take charge until somebody puts me back in my place. So that's just kind of how I am. So I've heard that a lot through my life of, hey, even when I was a kid, hey, good initiative, but bad judgment. Right. So yeah, there was that one.
Yeah.
So,
Live and learn. I mean, whatever.
Right.
I think it was cool for
Right.
whatever that's worth.
And the write-up was worth it. So I signed it with a smile.
Yeah.
So.
It's not every day you get to literally blow up a toilet.
Right. So. And like I said, technically my position was supposed to be point man. I'm supposed to be the first one through the door. So how about we stop putting me on a window team and let me do my job?
Yeah.
I'll stop blowing up toilets.
You're right.
Yeah. Can't argue with that.
So there's that one. And then there was another time I was on the window team, and I was the guy that was supposed to be breaking the window this time. And we didn't have, at this time, we were still kind of a new team, and we were kind of building things up and getting the gear and all the stuff that we needed. So we had a bunch of pike poles that the fire department donated us. The big pike poles, they take the little tiles out of the ceilings to kind of ventilate the fire and stuff. So we had those for the tools that we would break the windows.
That's cool.
And, there was a certain technique where we were supposed to drive it through the corner of the window and then rake it out. Well, me coming up there, being a young guy, I came up there and I swung that thing like a baseball bat. And these things have, they have a pike at the point, and then they have that little curved pike coming off the side of that one. Well, when I swung it like a bat, it stuck in the frame of the window. And I mean, I swung it like Jose Canseco, that pole, and it stuck into that window frame. And now it's stuck.
Oh no!
And I'm supposed to be breaking this window so we could flashbang the window, and my team was going to make a simultaneous entry. Well, now I'm sitting there with this pike pole stuck in the door or stuck in the window, and I've got both feet sticking on the wall of the house, trying to pull this thing out. And I can hear my team leader as they're bypassing the window going, "You dumbass, get that window broke." Right. And I'm like asking my partner, I'm like, "Hey dude, help. And he can't even, he is out of the fight. He is laughing so hard. So yeah, not every operation is like, oh, we're tactical serious. I mean, I have a guy over here, he can't operate because he's laughing. Both my feet is sticking on the wall, and I'm hanging on this pike pole stuck into the outside of the house. But we did get it out. I got the window broke. We got the flashbang deployed, and then caught a mattress on fire. Now this mattress on fire, and the house is filling up full of smoke. And so yeah, it was that was an interesting op on that one. So
yeah, it's funny to me that like sometimes I think cops run into these like high stress situations where they're a high stress situation, but they're inoculated enough to the high stress situation that when something that isn't supposed to happen happens and no one got hurt, you can't help but laugh.
Oh yeah.
Like I was on, so we had a vehicle chase with a guy one time, and got him stopped finally and everything, and got him out. And we're doing like a felony stop on him. So we're having him, come out of the car, face away from us, and we're going to walk him back towards us. Well, one of the guys I was with, he can speak some Spanish. And so he's fairly fluent, but just in the heat of the moment, he was trying to tell this guy to, face away from us and then grab the collar of his shirt and pull his shirt up so we could see his waistband and see if there's any guns or knives or anything in his waistband. But in the heat of the moment, he couldn't remember how to tell the guy in Spanish to grab his collar and pull his shirt up. So he, like, for lack of a better option, just told the dude to take his shirt off. And that was the funniest thing to me. Because the guy was really confused. He's like looks back at us like, what? Like, why? He like starts to take his shirt off. He's like, no, wait, like just come here. Like, just come over here. So stuff like that is funny.
It's funny.
But no, that's super cool. So okay, that's like window team like highlights for sure. Now I know on your team too, you guys had armored vehicle capability, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and I know just from some prior training courses that I've been through with you that you've got some pretty cool vehicle stories, armored vehicle stories. I seem to remember one. Oh man, I'm putting myself in the spot now. I'm trying to remember how this went. Maybe I'll circle back to it because I'm not going to suddenly remember it right now. I'll remember at like 3 a.m. tonight.
Yeah, just call me.
Yeah. Okay, well maybe we'll bypass that. Can you think of any armored vehicle stories off the top of your head that were just fun or notable or stood out anyway?
I mean, yeah, there's this one where we were training. Obviously it's a training exercise, so it's not, all high speed, but we had just gotten our Bearcat, and it's fairly new, and we're learning how to use this vehicle to do what we call tactical pulls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're hooking straps up to the front of the Bearcat, and we're hooking up with bars on the windows or extremely barricaded doors or something like that we're not going to be able to use a ram or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're kind of going through this tactical pool. Some of us went through some training and learned how to do this. So now we're coming back and teaching the team. And we've got this new, the new Bearcat and everything. And, we're like, well, let's see what the capabilities are of this Bearcat. And so we've been doing door pulls and window pulls and stuff like that. Well, this is the building that we were using was like a portable building that was donated to us for training because they were going to tear it down anyway.
Okay.
So it was they were sitting on cinder blocks. And we were like, hey, let's see how we could pull this whole thing off the cinder blocks, pier and beam, and just pull it off, right?
All right.
So we're hooking things to the windows and to the doors and really kind of stable areas and our, and on a tactical pull, your driver is he's not kind of the new guy when doing a tactical pull. He's really got to know how to drive and really just know how much accelerator to push just to pop things off and open, right? We're not really wanting to jerk things
right
off the structure. Well, this was one of those deals where we had a lot of things hooked up to this vehicle. So when we pulled the tension out of the straps, it was kind of like, okay, we need to give it a little bit more gas. So the driver kind of punched it. Well, when he did, we popped the door.
Oops.
Well, the door didn't just come open. The door came off the hinges and now is a projectile flying straight at the windshield of this Bearcat. And so it was flying straight. And I mean, of course, we were all out of the way in the safety zones and stuff like that. But this door came flying at the Bearcat, hit the Bearcat. Of course, we ended up pulling the whole house off the cinder block. So the door hit like up on top of by the windshield. Didn't really mess up the windshield because it was big, thick ballistic glass, but I think we may have like chipped some paint. And of course, when we kept going to pull the whole house off the deal, we ended up bending the bumper out a little bit.
Oh no!
And then you're talking about a $250,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And now we're out here just destroying it. And so our commander was like, okay, I think we're done for the day.
Yeah, that's enough.
So there's that one. Yeah. So we had to end up kind of finding something to kind of push that bumper back a little bit unconventionally. So
that goes back to that unconventional tactics.
Right. So
how do we fix it?
Yep.
No, that would have been funny if that door came off and like hit the glass and like spiderwebbed it or something. People would be like, oh, did y'all get in a shootout? Like, sure. It was a door.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, it was ninjas.
You're right.
No, that's funny. Okay. One other thing that I want to circle back to real quick because we kind of just completely bypassed it. I think you might have mentioned it very briefly, and I understand with this, there might be some of it that you can't really speak to on a podcast, and that is perfectly okay. But can you talk at all about your private contracting days? Yeah. So I left law enforcement full time in around 2010, went overseas as a contractor. So on my, went back overseas in the Middle East. So my last contract was in Afghanistan, down in Helmand Province of Afghanistan. Mm-hmm.
So I was there in Afghanistan in 2011, 2012. So it was fairly kind of mellow. We're still kind of in the hearts and minds of things. So not a whole lot of things going on. So I think you're probably talking about right after the 9/11 in 2012, Benghazi.
Yeah.
So Benghazi happened in 9/11, 2012. And then probably, I think it was like 3 or 4 days later after Benghazi got attacked, Camp Bastion, Camp Leatherneck got attacked. So I was there for that one. So yeah, there was that. So there's
Okay.
so
No.
So what did you do, just generally speaking,
So
as a contractor?
on that contract, I was a team leader of a special response team, or a QRF, quick reactionary force.
And this was a private thing. You didn't you work for the U.S. government. This was
it was
private.
it was with the government, but
Okay.
it was subcontracted out. So basically, the original contract was, hey, we're there to do kind of fixed site security. So
Okay.
and this is the first time the Marines had ever used any private company or anybody outside the Marine Corps for security forces. Marines have always used Marines for security forces. So we got this contract. So originally when we went over there, it was just fixed site stuff. So you're manning the entry and exit points, the gates, the towers. You got guys in tower guards around the perimeter. So very, very low key type deal. And then the Marines were kind of transitioning out and the Army was transitioning in. So there wasn't always a readily available QRF. So they kind of tasked our company, or the company I was working with, to form up a special response team. So basically it was a kind of a SWAT team for in and around the base, right? So if anything happened in and around the base, we would respond to it. So, once we got that and we got tasked with that, we developed the team. We picked the guys for the team. And a lot of the guys that were on these contracts had, a lot of experience from different, they were, military guys, from different branches, different specialized units. You had some SWAT guys out there that was contracting as well. So we didn't really have to go through a full-fledged selection process. It was kind of more of hey, who is who of who's on this contract? And you kind of already knew that. So you kind of knew who you wanted to be on the team. So we kind of put this team together and, we had one team on one side, one team on the other, day shift, night shift type stuff. So, just everyday stuff. We're just kind of roving perimeter checks and checking on tower guards, making sure they're good to go. They don't have anything to report. They got plenty of water and whatever up in the towers, and ammo and food and whatever. But if it was something that they needed to call out, they would call that out and we would respond to it and we would deal with that. So, I guess that day of that base attack was, again, I don't know how much to go into it, but there were certain things that were going on throughout the weeks prior to the attack. And, we were seeing it, we were being called to it, and we were reporting it back. And, part of the task was, hey, kind of give us an intel analysis or a threat analysis on what's going on. What are you guys seeing out there? And, of course we were telling them, hey man, something's gonna happen. We're seeing this hasn't been happening. And then it started happening and now we're seeing this. And, you see different people, you see the same people, doing the same thing over and over and over again outside the wire. And then you start seeing different faces and different activity. And you're like, hey, there's something going on here. Yeah. So we were talking, we were pushing all that stuff back to the top. And, like I said, it was the phase of where we were at with Afghanistan at that time. And it was more kind of a hearts and minds type thing. And then, later that night, for me, I was off. I was just got back from the gym and showered up and just got done talking to my wife and I just fallen asleep. And, of course we're in southern Afghanistan. So we're, in the Helmand Province. I think we were like 80 clicks east of Iraq and maybe 20 clicks from Pakistan. So it was just flat desert out there. So, you would hear explosions and stuff all the time because guys were using it pretty much as a shooting range. So you'd hear stuff all the time going off and it was just like, okay, whatever. But this time I heard this big loud explosion and it kind of rattled the walls a little bit more than normal. But it was one of those things where like, whatever. And you just went back to sleep. So, and then the next thing I remember, probably about 4 or 5 seconds later, I had one of my team guys coming in going, hey, the base is getting attacked. So, we all jumped up and, started doing what we're supposed to be doing and doing all that. So that was kind of like one of the big things and that, I was dealt with on that one. So,
yeah. But, well, so, and I know too that like some of the stuff that you did, I understand maybe not be the best content or appropriate content for a podcast, but I am trying to defeat your humbleness here with like not wanting to like, yeah, like, hey, like the base got attacked by terrorists and yeah, we were there. Like,
I mean,
could you-
obviously, I'm here on the podcast, so
He made it out.
the teams, responded and did what they were supposed to do in that kind of time. I mean,
okay, all right.
so
y'all beat the bad guys.
we beat the bad guys.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, all right, Roger that.
So what? I have a question.
It's like I took water to the tower.
Yeah.
yeah.
I took water
Like,
to guys in the
I want to
towers.
know the details of the story if you can share them, because like if it's like, yeah, and then like I took water to the guys in the towers
Well,
that.
I mean, what I can say is from my recollection, I believe there were. So the big explosion that I heard was, so they cut the wire and came over, and they were all wearing like the old army ACUs.
Oh, okay.
Like the uniform they went to right after the Woodlands.
Yeah,
Which nobody was
really-
wearing the ACUs at that time. They were all wearing multicams. So we thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But they were all strapped with suicide vests. So
Oh, okay.
the
yeah.
big explosion was one of these guys went and played bouncy house on our diesel fuel. So we were
Okay.
we kept diesel fuel in this huge, large canvas, kind of like a bag,
Okay.
right? And he just went and bouncy housed into it and blew that up. And that's what that big loud explosion was. And then
Damn.
a couple other suicide bombers went and blew up some kind of blew up the Marine Corps Harriers and stuff like that. So, from what I heard, it was like one of the biggest aviation losses that the Marine Corps has had since the Vietnam War.
Wow.
And they were all sitting on the tarmac. So, of course, we had to deal with, and then there was other guys trying to come on base and, just trying to take over the base for
Yeah.
whatever their thought process was, wasn't going to happen. But, I believe there were, I don't even remember a number. 14 sticks out in my head that didn't complete their objective due to other means that kept
Due
them from
to
doing that.
Yes.
Intervention.
due to some intervention from, our team and the Marines and some other, British units and stuff like that was over there. But,
Awesome.
and I believe there was like one guy that was, I guess still legally alive, that they had kind of, snatched and grabbed up from that, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much he was able to relinquish after he,
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
got him.
that's fine.
But yeah, it was, because it was pretty chill, that pretty much that whole time, all the way through September.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, oh,
Really
here we
ramped
are.
up.
So it was pretty ramped up at that time.
Well, something you'd mentioned was like talking about like you're in that area and you're starting to see things you don't normally see, and you're starting to hear things you don't normally hear and all that. I think that kind of ties back into like the everyday life of law enforcement, is the area that you work in, like the area you police, like you find out very rapidly what is normal for that area.
Right.
And that's kind of what your basic patrol cops do, is you're going out there to look for things that are not normal.
Right.
Like if you're going into like a very high crime area where there's always people like super zoinked out on meth walking around, and that's very normal there. Okay, well, that's very normal. But if maybe you're in a different area where that's not normal and you see someone like, well, that's something to go and
Right.
kind of like.
Well, I
hone
mean,
in
if you
on.
look at it, humans are creatures of habit,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So, as a patrol officer, you're driving around, working deep nights, and you drive through the same area over and over and over.
Yeah.
Things are going to be the same. And
Yeah.
then it's that one thing that sticks out, and you're like,
Mhm.
that's not right. And
Yeah.
so-
Well, and when you work those areas, especially over a longer period of time, like you get to know like who lives there.
Right.
So, and like, if you're being your friendly neighborhood community policing cop, you stop and talk to him and you're like, oh, hey, this is Phil. He lives on the corner. He's this, that, whatever. And then, if you see him every day and one day you don't see him or whatever, you're going to notice stuff like that.
Right.
So
You'd be surprised how many people get out of their vehicles
Mhm.
and leave their doors open
yeah.
and don't know they left their door open.
Yeah.
So
little
you
things
see
like
it
that.
and it's like, well, could it possibly be somebody broke into their car?
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of stop and go ask them, hey, did you know your door's open out here? And they're like,
Yeah.
no. I'm like, well, you may want to come and check. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I forgot my door was open. I just came from the store or whatever.
Yeah, I've had calls like that where exactly that, like, hey, this happened. Do you want to come look at it? Yeah, sure. And then like, well, do you notice anything wrong? And like, oh, yeah, I had a rifle in here and now it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right.
Yeah. But would you say that like, so whenever you were contracting, I'm sure that that same skill set, perhaps from law enforcement, probably came into play a fair degree
absolutely.
on, doing a security type contract like that.
I think a lot of patrol officers are doing a lot of the, how do I want to word this? Not high speed things, but they're doing a lot more than what they think they're doing. They just don't know. They don't realize exactly what they're doing. Right. Yeah. So, for example, one of our main objectives as the SRT over in Afghanistan was threat analysis.
Sure.
Right. So we're just out there going, hey, today, this is what we see versus yesterday. So it's pretty much the same for the last 3 weeks. So the threat analysis on this isn't very high. But now, 4 weeks later, we've been seeing the same stuff for 4 weeks. Now, all of a sudden, I see a new guy. And he's not doing what they're doing. He's just sitting there on a cell phone. Well, why does he have a cell phone? None of those guys have cell phones. We're in Afghanistan. They don't have a cell phone. Yeah. Why are you the only person with a cell phone looking towards us while they're over there doing what they're doing? But you're the only one standing there doing nothing on a cell phone looking towards us.
It's unusual.
That would be a threat analysis going, hey, something's not right here. I don't know what it is. I can't make assumptions, but it's different.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's something to pay attention to,
right?
Basically, and maybe it's nothing, but maybe it's something.
Well, and culturally over there, they travel in groups, tribes, right? They have their own people that they travel with, but then you see the same people over and over and over. But now you see a new guy inside that group. You're like, who's that guy?
Like you weren't there before,
right?
So.
You weren't there before, so why are you in that group? And how did you get accepted into that group?
Right.
So and that would be part of that threat analysis. Is and it may not be so important today.
Yeah.
But later on down the road, with other intel that we gather, you're just kind of putting that jigsaw puzzle together. Like today, it's like, okay, so there's a new guy. All right, well, let's just go put it up here and put a pin in it, right? Because it means absolutely nothing to me right now.
Right.
But later on, it may go, oh, hey, remember that guy that was new? Hey, that could have been the guy that just, blew up a fuel dump or whatever.
Could be. So. Well, another thing I'm thinking of is like just knowing your area and being familiar with it and paying attention. Is you'd mentioned that these guys that attacked the base were wearing U.S. Army uniforms.
Right.
Now, it's an important detail, though, that you guys knew that like that wasn't the correct uniform. Like that wasn't the uniform commonly worn at that base. But I could see a situation where people aren't paying attention or they know that, hey, it's an ACU uniform. That is a U.S. military uniform. Not paying attention, you don't know that that's not normal to wear around here, then I could see infiltration issues with that or,
Right.
So that's just, paying attention, knowing your area, being observant, taking note of things. Very important. I see a lot of commonality, I guess, between the law enforcement world and then what you're describing, kind of the military contracting scene and all that. So that's cool. Like
I would say, knowing what I know now, if I could go back and start over in the military, I would probably be 100% even more successful than what I was when I first went in as an 18-year-old.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, because I've learned so much on just everything, you know, and you're always learning. So it's just a never-ending world of learning.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so whenever you were at this base and everything, so I know like shortly before the base got attacked and everything, the 9/11/2012 Benghazi attacks that just occurred, did that, were you guys getting any intel that like other American sites were going to be hit anywhere in your area or like?
I'm sure at different levels they were, but at my level we weren't.
Okay.
We weren't getting anything pushed down.
Okay. So we're kind of in the dark. And so y'all's response to it really was like just, in large part due to y'all paying attention and taking your job seriously, you're able to help avert any further worse damage.
Right.
So, okay.
So unfortunately we weren't able to prevent it, but we were able to respond to it and
you don't
stop
know what
it.
you don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, the vast amount of crime in America, like cops can't necessarily prevent it.
Right.
We've talked about that on the show before. You can't really quantify how much crime that American cops are going to go prevent from happening. We know a lot of crime still occurs, but that's really kind of the job is like you prevent what you can. You're never really going to know. And then you respond to what you're called to respond to. And you do that as best as you can. So
I think we can prevent a lot more if I'll say the P word, certain politics weren't involved. And I think there was a lot of politics being involved at that time between the 2011, 2012 mark.
Oh, yeah.
With how everything was going. Because we had, we had certain things in place, like a rules of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, hey, we know what it says, but we don't really want you doing that type mentality.
Yeah.
And I think we have a lot of that in law enforcement as well.
Yeah.
Like for example, officer discretion. We have discretion to do a lot and not do a lot, right? We don't. There's certain things that we don't have to make a certain arrest if we don't see fit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can chalk it up and write a report or whatever and push it on to the next day. But with certain politics involved or whatever, whoever's making that call, they'll go, hey, you have to do XYZ or you can't do XYZ, you know? So I've seen it both ways where, I've been involved in cases where I was told you will make that arrest when I'm sitting there going, I don't really think I should. Like, it's just kind of a thing that I don't really think it needs to be an arrest type situation. So, and then there's things to where I'm going to hook this person up, and they're like, no, you're not. You're going to cut them loose and just write that up.
It goes both ways.
So it goes both ways. So, and I think politics plays a lot into it, which I don't believe it fits in anything that we do at our level, but it does.
It shouldn't. Yeah. I've tried to explain to friends that I have outside of the law enforcement world before that when it comes to things like getting tickets or getting arrested, like you have to understand in the law as it's set up that we operate under, a good way to kind of simplify it is talking about like mays and shalls.
Right.
So it's like, hey, a lot of legal statutes we're talking about where an officer is dealing with this type of crime, the law is going to say like, hey, when dealing with this, like an officer may arrest for this. They may issue a citation for this. They may not. And then there's other crimes that you're dealing with, other situations you're dealing with where the law says an officer shall arrest. They shall do this or whatever. And so I think it's important to note though that with the mays where it's like, hey, we might arrest you for this, we might not. That may is there for a reason. Right. Like that decision to make that a may was based out of probably a lot of kind of backlog case law and everything.
Right.
But what I don't like is when politics get involved, a lot of times you get the officer's ability to have the may taken away from them.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, you're gonna like per policy, like the law says you may issue this person a ticket for this traffic accident. But when you're the officer with boots on the ground and you see that this is not really a huge deal, it's not a big accident, no one got hurt, the person who caused the accident is already struggling with all this other stuff in their life, a ticket is not going to really make this situation any better for anybody.
Right.
Well, the officer needs to be able to say, hey, this is the main thing, like I'm not going to issue a citation for that. But a lot of times you'll have an agency policy that comes in that says, no, like everyone gets a ticket, and I think that's very bad. Politics, it's no good for boots on the ground type stuff.
Politics and policies.
Yeah, politics and policies. They both suck.
Yeah, they're more like guidelines.
Yeah, they're more like guidelines. Yeah. Well, I think we can agree on that. Yeah. So
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
What you went from law enforcement, SWAT to contracting.
Right.
You might have covered this before, but what motivated you to make that jump? Why did you quit law enforcement and go straight to contracting?
A divorce.
A divorce, okay.
Easy enough.
Didn't mean to get personal.
Yeah, no. I was
life
going.
Changes.
I was going through a pretty nasty divorce, and my mind wasn't where it should have been. To be, because at this point I was a team leader for my SWAT team. So I was going through this, personal issues, divorce and whatever. And my mind wasn't where it should have been. And it just got to the point where I was like, look, I'm no longer an asset to my team or my teammates or even to the department that I'm working with. And I probably need to take a step back and get my personal life squared away. Otherwise somebody's going to get hurt, whether it's me or somebody else. So I decided to kind of resign and step out of law enforcement and handle my personal business. And while I was doing that, an opportunity just came up, and I was like, yeah, it sounds like something I need to do. So I tell people I took a vacation and went back overseas So
a vacation.
A vacation.
That's kind of what happened to me. I was at a school, terrible school. It was so bad, I decided to leave the country for a couple years.
Sometimes
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to change everything. So
Yeah.
you know, so that was kind of one of the motivating factors to get into contracting, and I got the opportunity to do it, and something I've been thinking about doing anyway. So I went ahead and did it. Now I still kept my status as law enforcement. You know, obviously I had a chief that was carrying my commission and stuff like that while I was overseas. And then when I'd come home, I would reserve. So, you know, I came home in 2012 from contracting and, you know, being done from that. And then, so I went back in reserve for about 3 more years for that chief and, you know, kept my reserve status. But I was getting back, I was starting into the training industry. So when I got back from 2012, you know, you're sitting over there and, you know, you have some downtime when you're over there and you start kind of contemplating, hey, what am I going to do when I actually am not doing this? And, you know, because this is not my life. I don't want to do this the rest of my life and live in third world countries and live in, you know, combat environments all the time. So you start contemplating. So I was looking at maybe coming back and going to DPS and being a trooper. And I was like, man, I just don't want to start all over.
Yeah.
You know, and then I was looking at other departments going, well, maybe I should apply for this department, that department. And then, you know, you're just like, man, if I do that, then I'm going to have to go back to FTO, go back to patrol, work my way back out to SWAT. Nobody's going to bring me in and put me in the spot that I was when I left. I'm going to have to start. I'm going to have to take a couple steps back and, you know, start over.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, at my age and where I was at with my life and career, I was like, I'm not really willing to start over. I'm not. And where law enforcement was at that time and where it was going, I was just like, you know, I'm pretty much done. Now, you know, I'm one of those old dogs that when I first came in, you'd hear those stories back in my day, and you're like, whatever, dude. And then now you become one of those old dogs, and you're like, well, back in my day, you know,
cops were actually liked.
We didn't do it that way. And so when I started saying that, I was like, maybe it's time to look at, you know, other
Something
avenues.
else.
So that's when I got into the training industry, and then, you know, I tried to get out of it altogether, and it just kept. For some reason, it just kept sucking me back in in some shape, form, or fashion. And that's when, you know, my wife and I really started talking about, you know, hey, you know, we have a lot of knowledge because my wife has, you know, probably 10 years law enforcement. She was a patrol sergeant and negotiator and all this stuff. And, you know, her first department, she worked in Southeast Dallas, you know, in a pretty rough area, and then moved up into Denton County area and worked for a PD out of Denton County and became patrol sergeant. And so between her and I, we had a lot of knowledge, and we're like, you know, if we just leave this all together and not share the knowledge, you know, we're not any good than anybody else out there. So that's when we decided, you know, to start the training company and start, you know, getting out there and trying to make officers better and, you know, just based off of our experiences and knowledge that we've had, you know, because, you know, obviously I was pretty fortunate to not only work for a good agency that, you know, allowed me to go get the training that I wanted and needed. But I also I was fortunate enough to actually get to go out and operate and do a lot of things and get the real world experience from that agency as well. So, you know, if you're just going to sit on it and not share that with the new guys coming in, I mean, what good are you? So that's kind of why we started the training company, and we started P2 Concepts is to get out there and just, you know, keep it going. It's because, you know, we could sit here and bitch about all the problems that's out there. But if you're just going to sit there and bitch about it, what good are you?
We got
plenty of people. If you have a way to get out there and try to fix that and maybe offer some solutions. I'm not saying we're gonna change the world or anything, or we're gonna fix the actual, you know, the whole problem. But if we can get out there and offer some solutions to make it better, right? Not really maybe fix it, but maybe kind of make it better and make it a little bit easier for these officers coming in and doing this work now, because obviously it has changed, you know, within the last 10, 15 years. You know, so it's not exactly the same as when I was doing it, just like it wasn't the same when I came in and my FTOs were like back in my day, you know. So and it's just a revolving door. Mm-hmm. You know, this is the line of work that evolves with time. And you have to be able to evolve with that time in this line of work. Otherwise, you're gonna get left behind. right? If you're that guy that's like, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years and I've been doing it the same way for 30 years. Well, there's probably a reason you're standing up here saying you've done it for 30 years and you're not doing it anymore. Right. So, that's just one thing. That's why we kind of started that training company, so we could go out there and kind of help evolve these officers and continue to learn what's going on and how do we take the things that we know and modify them and evolve them into, today's time and how they can be used in today's time. Because there's still a lot of things, obviously what I was doing back in 2008 and 2010 is not what I'm teaching today, because it's changed, from that point. To.
Yeah.
So, but the principles of what I was doing, the principles don't change, right? Principles will never change. The principles are the written truth about what you're doing, right? But it's the application of those principles. That's what changes. So, as an instructor, I still go out and I learn and try to figure out what everybody's doing and going, okay, well, how do you do this? Well, how can I do that better? Right. Yeah. So I'm not changing principles. I'm just changing the applications of those principles. So, if this application, because if you look at like shooting fundamentals, right? The shooting fundamentals have been the same shooting fundamentals since Jesus Christ was shooting, since he was an operator, right?
Yeah.
But what has changed? Well, the weapon platforms have changed, right? We've gone from revolvers to semi-automatics, and now you look at how even the semi-automatics are changing now from from a plain just a basic Glock to a staccato or something like that.
Yep.
Red dots.
So red dots. You go to traditional sights, right? Sight alignment, sight picture. To now you have an optic on your pistol. So do I still have sight alignment, sight picture? Absolutely, but the application of sight alignment, sight picture is going to vary from
target focus.
using a red dot versus traditional sights. And it's just continuing on and learning how, taking these same principles and just evolving them and changing the applications as the world turns and changes. How do we take these principles and continue modifying them and changing the application? So
that's the big question. And I think it is important to do that from a basis of reality of actually doing this stuff in real life, because I've seen other training companies and everything where they'll have an instructor who's like, hey, I'm going to teach you tactics or whatever, and it's like, my background, never actually been in any combat or any kind of use of force ever, but theoretically, per this curriculum, this is a good way to do it,
right? But
then there's guys like yourself, and then I think you've mentioned before, you have met Mark Geist.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I know that Oz from the 13 Hours incident, I think he's doing a lot of the training stuff now. But guys like him and guys like yourself who have been in these situations where like you've experienced an actual legit terrorist attack and fought back against it and were victorious, you're going to be able to take lessons learned from the real event and then come back and provide a much higher level of training that translates into the real world, as opposed to someone who's like, well, never, had the real experience, but I think this would be a good idea, so I'm going to teach other people this, and maybe it's good, maybe it has some value, probably not.
Well, and there's a lot of credibility behind your name.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially cops, it's a small world.
Yep.
You can ask, I can ask Fithin and he can ask another buddy about who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll eventually dig that out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a lot of credibility behind your name and what you're doing. And cops look for that. I mean, there's an expectation.
They should.
If I go to a training, what are you about? You know what I mean? Like, who are you?
Right.
Is this another certificate factory, or are you going to teach me some stuff that I can apply out there?
Like why should I listen to you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
And especially when like we're talking about things like, hey, law enforcement is just like any other organization that like we have a budget that we go off of. So when we're looking to say like, hey, we have training budget, like what are we going to spend our training money on? Well, that's why you start looking around and like, hey, like we want the best bang for our buck. And so, it becomes very important to find people. Reputation is currency is something I was told a long time ago that has always resonated with me. And if I'm talking to someone that I trust and they're like, hey man, I went to this school or went to this course or whatever, and it was awesome. It was badass. It made me a better shooter. It made me a better fighter. It made me a better driver, whatever the case, it made me a better interrogator or whatever. Then that's whenever you start to learn like, like that, this is what I want to, spend my money on and my time on.
Well, and I think that goes a lot to, there's instructors out there that, come from different communities and have different experiences, and they're teaching. And it's not that they're teaching anything wrong or bad or whatever. It just may not be practical for what this particular group needs.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think me coming from the military, law enforcement, contracting world, I can take everything that I've been trained to do in certain situations and go, how do I make this practical for patrol? How do I make this practical for SWAT? How do I make, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That some of them, they may not know how to make it practical for law enforcement. Yeah. We've got a lot of special operations guys out there that have great resumes and a lot of experience in different environments and different combat environments and different things like that. And then they want to come out and teach SWAT. Well, I'm not saying their techniques are bad or anything. They're proven techniques for
absolutely.
the environments that they used them in, but SWAT's not in those environments.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to take those principles of what you're teaching and make them, again, change the application and make them practical for who you're teaching.
Absolutely.
And then another one of my big pet peeves is if you're going to be an instructor, obviously anything that you instruct, you should be somewhat, and I say somewhat of a subject matter expert in what you're teaching. So kind of stay in your lane. Like I said, I've been an entry guy pretty much through my whole entire career.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get out there and try to teach a sniper school.
Sure.
I'm not a sniper, right? Mm-hmm. So why would I be teaching, anything that has to do anything with long distance precision shooting? That's not what I do. I'm more of a close quarters guy. And then, so if you look at anything that I pretty much teach, everything is based off of being close quarters and doing that, right?
Yeah. Well, and on that note, so I know that P2 Concepts, you guys have expanded a little bit, at least since I started training with you guys. So you've got some new instructors that are working with you now that they're subject matter experts in other things. Like, I know you guys are putting on a low power variable optic course now. And well, tell us a little bit about that. Like if, for all the cops listening out there, if you're looking for training, like what kind of training courses are you guys offering right now at P2?
So obviously, we have the tactical line, right? So we've got the basic advanced SWAT schools. We got hostage rescue, bus assaults, pretty much anything on the operator side of tactical stuff we can teach. We've got, your train the trainer courses, firearms instructor, patrol rifle instructor, red dot pistol instructor, low light instructor. But again, we're starting to bring on other instructors that have different specialties that can add to the mix of that. So we brought on a few other instructors, that one, he specializes more in the low powered variable optics. So we're doing the LPVO operator course. We're going to be doing designated marksman courses for the teams that aren't full-fledged SWAT teams and can't have a full-fledged sniper element. But you need guys behind some type of scoped magnified rifle to do to at least get some overwatch or whatever, and obviously take a shot if they need to. Excuse me. So we've got that class coming up. We also have another class coming up that we call special response to crowded environments. So you have a lot of officers that work. Hang on, my throat's killing me.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
Let me get a drink here.
Yeah. The variety of courses is very cool, and I want you to keep talking about it because I want to do more courses. Yeah. So hopefully Porus here campaigns on my behalf to get.
So
okay.
So we have the special response to crowded environments. So we have officers that work off-duty jobs or work concerts or festivals or even like football games or baseball games or whatever. And it's not so much as based off an active shooter type situation, but it may be a situation where there is a shooter involved, right? So you're going to have officers responding into these crowded environments and to eliminate that threat. But there's not, there may just be one threat, but there's hundreds of non-threats in that area. So how are we going to eliminate that threat? So that's kind of what that course is going to be based off of. And then we brought on another instructor that's going to be focusing more on the medical side of things for first responder, for officers, right? So we're putting together a tech medicine class for first responders. And eventually we'll have it all the way up to a tactical medical course, right? So for your
Very
TAC
cool.
medics
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So, and then we brought on another guy here recently to kind of focus more on the hand-to-hand combatives community or environments, arrest control techniques, stuff like that. That's going to be more practical for law enforcement.
Cool.
Because there's a lot of martial arts stuff out there, but excuse me. Obviously, we're regulated on what and how much we can use. So this guy's been training for a long time. He's got a lot of different certs in that martial arts community. So he's where he can take what's practical and teach these officers on what to use to complete that objective and not get them on, YouTube or thrown in prison or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, no, that's absolutely relevant because I've talked to a friend of mine before who he's coming from an Army background, but excuse me, we were talking about CQB, close quarters battle, at one point, and we were discussing different situations and kind of different scenarios. And I found out very rapidly that a lot of the answers to the problems in these scenarios that he had were just throw a grenade in there.
Right.
I was like, well, we can't do that in law enforcement. We don't have grenades, for one. And for two, usually like we have a different mission. We're not there to, kill the enemy like you guys are. We're there more so to save people or just capture people. Sometimes they're going to force our hand to do something more. But it's interesting to see the different rules of engagement and the different tactics associated with those rules where, you're going to have guys that are awesome at what they do, but it may not apply to what you are doing.
Right.
So, that's good.
I believe there's a difference in violence of action.
Yeah.
And then what I teach is controlled violence of action.
Yeah.
Right? Violence of action works great in a combat zone.
Mm-hmm.
But if our officers are trained in violence of action out here on the street, it's probably going to get somebody thrown in prison or hurt or killed or something. So when I teach that, I kind of throw that extra word in there, controlled violence of action. So because we have to stay in a little bit of control, a little bit more so than what you would over in a combat environment. So
okay, well, kind of to start wrapping this up, so P2 Concepts, I know you guys travel all over the place. You're doing all sorts of awesome training. But I do want to know, so what are the kind of long-term goals of P2 Concepts? What do you want to grow this thing into?
So we're coming up on year 10. It'll probably July it'll be our 10th year of P2 Concepts. So this past year I've really been focusing on bringing other instructors on that have different specialties so we can add a little bit more variety to our course catalog, and continue to evolve. But my overall vision of what P2 Concepts is, and it's been my vision since day one. It's just been it's a progress, right? Like you said, you got to build that credibility, you got to build that reputation. If you just jump in there and build it and they will come, you'll probably be out of business in 2 to 5 years.
Sure.
And we want to be doing this 30, 40, 50 years down the road. So our next phase of P2 Concepts is also, obviously continue to build up instructor cadre. Because we're getting more busy, right?
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where I've got to be in multiple places at one time, and that's just physically impossible for me. So I've got to have instructors that can be, in West Texas this week while I'm in East Texas the same week doing the same days. But we're to the point now where we've kind of really settled down, in personal life, and we love where we're living now. So we're actually looking at possibly building a training facility. Obviously it would be in phases as well.
Of course.
My overall goal would be a one-stop shop, right?
Yeah.
So from people that were wanting to get into law enforcement, come on, let's put you through the academy and we'll just push you on through the, get you hired on. And when you're ready to come do the SWAT thing, we have that too. And then when you're ready to take on the leadership role, we have all the leadership command and, command courses and get you certified to do that as well. So that's kind of our overall vision, is just to be that one-stop shop training company. But obviously that takes time and money. So, so we're,
one step at a time.
we're hopefully looking to maybe find, a piece of property or a building or something that we can start utilizing and start turning into a training facility. And, again, it would definitely be something that would be all inclusive. Like you sign up for the course, you've got your housing, you've got your rec, you got your downtime stuff there. So you can do everything there at the facility while you're there to train. That way, if you do something stupid on your off time, I'll just smoke you the next day and we'll move on. Right. That way I don't have officers out there on town doing stupid stuff and their chief's getting a phone call that they're.
Yeah.
So
don't want that.
I think it would just make it that much easier, and we're based out of East Texas anyway, so it's kind of centralized.
Yeah.
Where, everything's, I think would probably be the furthest distance would be me coming up here, which is about 6.5 hours.
Okay.
So, and then I went to Laredo. So that's the other way, which was about 6.5 hours for me. So I'm pretty centralized where we're at now over in East Texas. So I think if I could find a really good spot to put that mecca there, I would love to have that law enforcement tactical training mecca.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I would like to take over the world, but
wouldn't we all?
Yeah, yeah. But I think there's too much work out there. I think there's enough work for all of us out there. So
yeah, I would agree. Cool.
I'd like to be a staple.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I wish you the best.
I appreciate it.
Enjoyed training with you in the past, and look forward to training some more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Couple of last kind of final closing things here. One is, if people are looking to get in touch with P2 Concepts and schedule training and do stuff like that, how do they find you?
Obviously our website, p2conceptstraining.com, or you can go to any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We all have P2 Concepts, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then my wife and I both have personal social media pages on Facebook. I believe she has one on Instagram, and then I have a personal one on LinkedIn as well. But the best way is to obviously contact us, by phone, whatever. I guess I'd tell you my phone numbers, our business phone numbers, 940.
Throw them out there if you want.
Yeah, 940-389-1745, or, p2conceptstraining.com. You can reach us at info@p2conceptstraining.com. So that's probably the best way to get a hold of us, is give us a call or email us.
Awesome.
So,
okay. And then final thing that I have for you. So we talked a lot of like action and tactical training and suicide vests blowing up and blowing up toilets and ripping doors off walls and like just a lot of like high speed. But I did want to ask you too, what do you do in your free time? Like, what do you do to relax?
Obviously I spend what free time I have with my family. I like to fish. My youngest son and I like to go out, and we've got kayaks, so we like to kayak fish all the time. And then just me personally, I just quiet, just being quiet sometimes, because, you stand up here and you talk all day long as an instructor. And, a lot of times I get off and, I call my wife and just to check in, and she's like, so how did it go? And what did you do? And you're like, can I just not talk right now? I've been talking all day. So no, we like to, obviously we like to spend a lot of time with the family. And it's cool that my family, we all have kind of the same interests. So we're outdoorsy people. We like camping, we like fishing. We just like hanging out, and obviously not doing. So I get a lot of times like friends will call and be like, hey, you want to go to the range? No, I don't. I've been on the range. I've been on the range all week. Why would I want to do that? Right. But it's such a stress relief. Not for me. So, you want to drink cold beer and go fishing? Sure. Let's go. Let's do it. So that's kind of what we like to do on our off time. So
yeah, well, cool. No, that's cool. And I agree with you that, like, I don't know. I think in certain lines of work, whenever you do something cool for a living, stuff like people want to go to the range. That's a fun thing they do every once in a while. But like, if someone called me right now and was like, hey, this weekend you want to work some felony cases? Like, not really.
Not really.
Like, wasn't planning on it. Yeah. I mean, hey, Boris, this weekend you want to go run the dog on some cars? No? Okay. Well, all right.
Clear another school?
Yeah.
Give me a couple weeks off of that.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay. Well, cool. Any closing remarks from anyone?
I had just a quick question, as you being an OG of the game. any aspiring words for those young go-getters in the law enforcement world that are, anything for them? Like, the law enforcement world has changed. What do you have of words of wisdom for those guys?
My word of wisdom is to understand leadership. Number one, leadership doesn't start at the top and trickle down. It starts with you and spirals out, right? So that's one tip I can give you. So lead by example. You don't have to be you don't have to have stripes or bars or any of that to be a leader, right? You can be the most rookiest of all rookies on a shift, and you could still probably be the best leader on the shift. 2, I would say understand the definition of standards and continue to maintain the standards. And once it's easy to maintain that standard, raise your standard, right?
Yeah.
Again, and that kind of goes back to lead by example. So if you start seeing that you're able to shoot your quals and pass with flying colors and it's easy, well, then try to be better, right? You can always be better. So I would say understand your standards, maintain your standards, and always try to raise those standards. And then I would say kind of our tagline with P2 Concepts is stay motivated, train hard, and hold strong.
Hell yeah.
So hold strong.
Hold strong.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too.
So that's kind of our tagline. It's kind of what we put on everything that we got is stay motivated and train hard and hold strong. I think if you really kind of dive off in the meanings of what each one of those mean, I think you'll be fine.
I like that. We're going to close out with that.
Yeah, it's a good note to close out on.
Yeah.
Hold strong, everyone. Hold strong.
All right. Well, cool. That's been episode 10-8. Robbie, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Boris, thanks for coming out as well. I will go ahead and give it the teaser. So this is going to be episode 10-8. We have plans to do episode 10-9 featuring one of our local dispatchers. And for those in the profession, you may realize, like, what 10-9 means. You know how dispatch is. They know how we are, and you'll find some humor in that. But so be expecting episode 10-9, and then also be expecting Porus to come back. He's going to come on for episode 10-10, which, again, for those of us in the profession and everything, you'll recognize what that means. And Porus is going to talk to us a little bit about not only that subject, but himself and everything. And we'll get into that, and it'll be a good one. So
you got to bring the dog.
He can hang out here in the podcast.
Yeah,
no couches left.
Yeah. I don't know if your dog likes me. I can't
I don't
tell
think
if
his
he
dog
does.
likes anybody.
I would say
Maybe
he probably
not.
doesn't.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, he did alert. You know what? We'll talk about it on your episode. Yeah. Porus's dog almost ate me one time. So cool.
Nope.
All right.
Nice to meet you, Robbie.
All right. Thanks for having me. Nice
thanks
to
for
meet you.
coming.
Until next time.
All right.